Islam is the root of our culture.
Your culture was hijacked by Islam when the army of Muhammad came during the 7th century and hijacked the indigenous people living in Morocco, the indigenous people living in Tunisia, the Copts living in Egypt, and it hijacked it. People are getting killed on a daily basis for not converting to Islam. We can see it every day in Syria. You can see it every day in Egypt. We can see it every day in different parts of the
Every
world.
day in
And
Egypt, huh?
only once Muhammad became aggressive and violent, only then Islam prevailed. So yes, I think Islam is the reason for a lot of issues in the world. You can agree with me or you can disagree with me. How old are you, brother?
I'm 19.
19. Are you watching my stream?
Yeah, I am.
Yalla, why you have
Because
why you have a kafia, brother?
I'm because I'm cold, honestly. Um, I'm too lazy, even though. Let's start because I've been watching your content. So can I just address a point that I think is really important?
Please.
Would you accept a dual state, a national state with two nationalities, a Palestinian nationality and an Israeli nationality? Why not?
Because they have one. It's called Jordan.
No, they don't have one because
They do.
the logic with that, you're basically saying that everyone that lives in Palestine, lives in the West Bank, lives in Gaza, who's never been to Jordan, needs to relocate and get off their land for Jewish safety.
That's what you said.
Why?
That's what you said.
Why? No, no,
70,
no. Okay.
seven, let me tell you why Jordan is a Palestinian state. Very simple to see. 75% of Israel is Jewish. 75%. 75% of Jordan.
Let's not.
75%.
Let's not.
Hold on. Just a second.
Let's
Let me
look
just
at
finish
the
my.
facts.
Let me just
Let's
finish.
look at the facts a
Let me
bit.
let me just finish.
More.
Let me just finish what I had to say. Hold on. If this is gonna continue like this, we're not gonna have productive conversation. It sucks
Sorry.
for you because I can just skip. Okay. In Jordan, there's 75% Palestinians. The majority of the people living in Jordan are Palestinians. The British Mandate of Palestine consisted of Transjordan before the 1920s. And then the Jews were ethnically cleansed. The people that stay there were Palestinians. Why can't they just claim Jordan as a Palestinian state? Why do they have to take the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people?
Because they don't live in Jordan.
They do.
Simple as they don't live in Jordan. People, sorry, I need to work on my demeanor.
You're good.
They don't live in Jordan. Simply as they lived off land that was in. I want to go back to your point, actually, bringing back to 1920s because that's a very interesting discussion. But basically, they do not live in Jordan. I live here. I don't live there.
Where
My
do you
parent,
where do you live? Are you Palestinian?
I'm Egyptian, but basically, let's say I do not live in Cairo. I live in Alexandria. It's a 5 hour roadway, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna living in Cairo for me, even though it's the same country. With your logic, even though there is Palestinian society is very much more delocalized and decentralized, in which it's more diverse. I think there are different traditions, like someone from Haifa, from Jaffa, so it's very.
I disagree. I disagree with you. With respect, I'm
But
saying. With respect, I'm saying I disagree.
okay,
Arab culture is Arab culture. And by the way, the Arab leaders themselves say it. They say that Palestinians are no different than Syrians, no different than Egyptians, no different than
no
Jordanians.
difference from Egypt. Okay, that okay. 3 points. So let's just be focused because let's focus on 3 points. You want there is the historical case, which I do not reject and I can talk about quite a lot. There is the more pragmatic case that we were talking about that, well, you were saying they should move to Jordan, which I think is absurd because especially the
I'm not
Palestinians
saying they
are.
should move to Jordan. I'm saying Jordan is a Palestinian state.
No. You said you would not accept a binational state because Jordan is already a Palestinian state. And I asked you and you can look for the video on this. And I'm very sorry that my camera is not up to standards, but
All
you
good. Don't
can
worry,
look.
brother. I promise I'm listening to you. All good. You can take a breath. It's fine.
And you
I'm with
can
you.
look, and you can look. And I asked you specifically, should the Palestinians move to Jordan? And you said yes. This logic is very banal because they do not live in Jordan.
Well,
It's
the people in Gaza,
they do not live in Jordan. Point.
the people in Gaza can be absorbed into Egypt because Egypt already
The
control.
people in Gaza, are they Egyptians?
Of course,
They have
the
the
majority
same
of them.
national.
Yes, the last
That's
the
a lie.
the third most popular last name in Gaza is El Masri, from Egypt.
Okay, and
So it means that
Gaza has different tradition, different food. The, I know their accents. I know how Gazans speak. You cannot tell me that they speak the same dialect as me because I know what's a Gazan dialect and what's an Egyptian dialect,
if I
and
could
I
have
can tell the
if
difference.
I could have
And a
found a
Gazan
photo.
dialect, let me just speak. And a Gazan dialect, for your knowledge, is very, very unique to the people of Gaza because I think one of the things they do, because Gazans are very strong. Anyway,
Can I say
so
something?
yeah.
Um, a Uni Bey Abdul Hadi, a Syrian Arab leader to the British Peel Commission in 1937, said, "There's no such country as Palestine. Palestine is a term that the Zionists invented. There's no
So
Palestine in
what?
the Hold on. There's no Palestine in the Bible. Our country was for centuries part of Syria. Palestine is alien to us. It is the Zionists who introduced it." Another guy, Arab historian, 1946, he said, "There's no such thing as Palestine in history. Absolutely not." Another guy,
Okay,
a Saudi Arabian, a United Nations representative, said, "It is common knowledge that..."
I get your point. Can I just
Hold on,
speak to it?
just a second. "It is common knowledge that Palestine is nothing but southern Syria." Also, a PLO executive said in 1977, I believe, his name is Zuhir Moshen, he said, "Palestinians are no different than Syrians, Egyptians." He's a PLO executive. Why would he say this if Palestinians are not Arabs, who are exactly like Egyptians, exactly like Syrians, exactly like Jordanians, exactly like Lebanese?
Can I speak? Okay,
If you
uh,
respond to my questions, yes.
yeah. I'm because again, I think you don't quite comprehend what being Arab is because I think you look at it as a very narrow definition. I was just talking about this later. Being Arab is, yes, because being Arab has, I think, like multiple layers to it, and I've been thinking about this. There's a general Arab culture, a general like characteristics that we all share, right?
Hmm.
A base of poetry, of culture that we all share. But then we have these differences that distinguish each of us from each other. So for example, I'm Egyptian. I don't know if I go to a Palestinian restaurant, a Lebanese restaurant, I get lost because I don't know what's on the menu because it's foreign to me. And I think that's one of the cases that was against the Union of Syria in 1958. But that's another topic, which Syria united with Egypt, and one of the reasons it fell is
I think you're talking about people that were who came from the Arabian Peninsula and people that were Arabized. That's what you mean?
okay, but we're all Arabized.
No, no,
We
not all of you are Arabized. During the 7th century with Umar the second Khalifa, a lot of Arabs.
First of all, I dispute that because I've heard that point a lot. The Arabization of the area. I think there was a very interesting article in which I don't remember what it's called, but I think I saw in which it detailed how Arabs existed to some point. There, in the Najaf, I think it's Arabs in pre-Islamic Levant or something. It's a very.
Arabs originate from the Arabian Peninsula, and a
Can
lot
I
of
speak? Can I
people.
speak?
I think you cut me
Can I
off. I
speak?
think you cut me off when I spoke.
Sorry.
What I'm saying is, if you actually look at the amount of people that are here that today consider themselves Palestinians, the majority of them came from Egypt because of the oppression of the French system who tried to build the Suez Canal. People were trying to escape. So where did they escape to? They escaped to where the British were. They escaped
So
to where the Ottomans were. That's where they escaped. And that's why there's a lot of people
so
here that claim to be indigenous Palestinians, but they actually descend from Egypt. And a lot of them also descend from the Arabian Peninsula during the 7th century.
okay. I'm gonna look at your point because I think that point
What's your
is
name? What's your name, by the way?
reduction.
What's your name?
I'm Adam. That point is
Aden,
in
you
two
said?
ways.
You said Aden?
Adam,
Adam,
like the first.
Adam,
Yes.
have you been watching me for some time?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with talking points. So
And my content, like you checked my content, you checked what I said, and you found it to be
am
false?
I not allowed to do my work?
No, no,
I'm
no,
not.
no. Of
I'm
course you.
not allowed to present
No,
an
no.
argument
Of course you are. I'm just asking.
that that is consistent.
I'm just asking you if
Okay.
you. I'm just asking you if you researched my stuff that I did, and if you actually fact checked the stuff that I said. That's all I was asking.
Fact checked, yes.
Okay.
I know what I'm talking about because I was referencing an article I read, the myth of the Arabization that came with the Islamic conquest. First of all, does it really matter if it's 7th century? Well, first of all, before even that logical inconsistency with modern day politics and modern day law and whatever, let's look at the very basic fact that the Arabs were present in the Najaf desert in some way or form, even pre the rise of Islam. There are two scholarly opinions. I read an article, two scholarly opinions. One which say that the Arabs, three actually, one that negates it, and the methodology is very interesting because they fact check prehistoric. I think more archaeological stuff with I'm boring you, but
No, no,
basically
you're
they're
not
like
boring me. I just want to read you the source that I have proving that Egyptians came during the British Mandate of Palestine
who wrote
between
it?
1922 to 1944. A detailed study from the Jerusalem for Public Affairs emphasizes that from 1922 to 1944, Egyptian peasants, including those from the Suez Canal region, immigrated to the British Mandate of Palestine. They initially came as laborers to work for the Brits, often settling permanently. One oral history describes Egyptians, newcomers labeled Masrawa or Masri, terms implying Egyptian origin, including from areas near the canal. That's what I meant. I meant
When did they come?
between 1922 and 1944, and all of a sudden they're considered to be indigenous Palestinians who've been there for thousands
Well,
of years.
well, first of all, two arguments. Let's go back with that logic. Did they own property there? Were they
A lot of them came as laborers. A lot of them came because they wanted to work for the Brits.
okay? Then if they were laborers, why didn't they go back to Egypt?
Because they wanted to escape from the Suez Canal digging, and they stayed there because their
Well,
terms were
well, in
better.
1922,
Why would they not?
19
Why would they not stay there if the Jews were there and they're making their lives better?
sorry, you're gonna say the Jews were making their lives better,
The Jews
but
the
no.
Jews were actually
Let,
increasing
let,
their
let,
healthcare
let,
system. They made their healthcare system be a lot better. The average death age actually increased from the moment Jewish people arrived back to the land. So yeah, of course, people would want to live there than Egypt.
okay, so that point is very interesting. You talk about the origins of the land and the so-called um, you know, advancement and the economic,
Spike.
development
Yeah.
of the Holy Land, which is a very interesting point because you point to Jewish arrival, which is kind of banal because other more historical sources would point to the mid 1800s, of course, with the Ottoman Tanzimat and the Ottoman reforms that allowed the people of Palestine to basically establish or allowed not the people of Palestine, but rather the nobility to establish more direct control over the areas which they govern. This, of course, in Yafa included the cultivation of oranges, and after 1885, after Slavic wars and whatever, people would actually trade with Palestine because
Who do you consider Palestinians? Who are Palestinians?
that's a very good question. Who do I consider Palestinians? I consider anyone who considers themselves to be a Palestinian to be a Palestinian, because the national identity is very, it's a made up concept. No one, it's something that you can argue, but if I believe I'm Egyptian, I'm Egyptian. If you believe you're Israeli, you're Israeli. There is going to be much historical debate about it, but
So
that is very.
Jews that claim to be, I mean, Jews that were here before 1948 that were by definition Palestinians, what are they now?
Did they regard themselves as, okay, I think, did they regard themselves as part of the nation of the Arabs living in the area?
It wasn't a nation.
Were
Only the Jews
were
considered
they
themselves.
one nation?
No, they were not one nation. The Arabs considered themselves Bilad Shamis, South Syrians. Nothing to do with Palestine.
Okay, if they consider themselves Bilad Shan, okay, let's go to the Bilad let's look at it in that scope, because again,
So I'm
it's not going to
Palestinian.
work.
I'm Palestinian. I believe I'm Palestinian. So Palestine is free now, right?
Well, okay, can someone from Gaza come before the genocide? Because
What genocide?
it is a genocide,
How is it
and
a genocide?
I'm gonna talk about that later. But
Listen, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this because I don't feel like this conversation is productive.
no,
No,
I'm
for me,
no, because you're losing, right?
because I'm losing. I think I'm breaking your brain.
You're not,
I'm
because
pretty much on you weren't able to debunk anything that I said. I said that people came here doing the Egyptian Suez Canal digging. People
so
wanted to
what?
seek for better
No,
opportunities.
I'm
People,
looking at the argument.
but the
I'm
fact, hold on.
okay. Let
Badr, Badr, you have to let me speak. You have to let me speak. The fact that you just called it a genocide without any backup to your claims, and I'm going to debunk you right now, but you're going to say, yeah, but people are dying. People die in every war, and it's very
I'm
unfortunate.
not gonna say that.
Okay,
I'm not gonna say that.
so give me your proof that there's a genocide in Gaza.
Okay, let's do it this way. What do you think of Palestinian culture? Do you
It
believe
doesn't
a
exist.
Palestinian culture exists?
No, it doesn't exist.
Okay, that why?
Why? Because it's Arab culture.
What is Arab culture? What is Arab culture?
Arab culture is culture arriving from Arabia.
So what is Arab culture?
People
Is
who,
it good or bad? Is Arab culture good or bad?
I don't think it's bad. I think Islam is bad. I don't think Arab culture is
Why?
bad because it's very prejudiced against Jews and Christians.
Is it only Jews and Christians?
And no, not only. Every person that doesn't believe that Islam is the religion of truth is an enemy to Islam.
Do you believe that women in Islam are good?
I be-
Like, are
I believe they're wonderful. I just believe they're oppressed under Sharia
no?
law.
Do you think Islam is at fault? Islam
I
is
think Islam is definitely the reason for conflicts around the world. Yes.
okay. And do you think okay? So what you just did is gonna, if you bear with me and just let me speak for a few minutes, okay? Because I know you're not used to people that are actually know what they're talking about,
Yeah, but
but
you remember I asked you for proof to show me that there's genocide? You remember we talked about this?
yeah, I'm gonna use your words as proof, because a genocide, we do not talk about killing. We do not. I'm not even gonna talk about the killing. I'm not even gonna touch it. What is a genocide? What needs to happen in terms of a genocide is intent. And what is intent? Intent, okay. Intent is, wanting to kill people. But even before intent, there needs to be a legitimization of violence, which a legitimization of violence would say a dehumanization of the people living in Gaza. You did it. You just did it by saying that Islam is a flawed nation. You basically said
I didn't say it's a flawed nation. I said Islam
you said
is
it's
a
a
flawed.
flawed thing.
I said
It's
it's
a
a flawed
flawed idea.
ideology. I said it's a flawed ideology. I'm allowed to criticize Islam as much as I want.
You're allowed to criticize. So, do you think Islam is evil? Yes or no?
I think Islam is evil. Yes.
Do you think it brought any good to the world?
Some good. Yes, I think it did bring some good.
Like
But
what?
but as a whole, I think it's very evil.
Okay, so calling Islam is very evil. Islam is basically the root of our culture. It was made
No, it's
by
not.
the Arabs.
No, it's not.
Yes, it
Your
is.
your
I'm
your
gonna
your
prove it.
your culture was
Let me.
hijacked. Your culture was hijacked by Islam when the army of Muhammad came during the 7th century and hijacked the indigenous people living in Morocco, the indigenous people living in Tunisia, the Copts living in Egypt, and it hijacked it. People are getting killed on a daily basis for not converting to Islam. We can see it every day in Syria. You can see it every day in Egypt. We can see it every day in different parts of the
Every
world.
day in
And
Egypt,
only once Muhammad became aggressive and violent, only then Islam prevailed. So yes, I think Islam is the reason for a lot of issues in the world. You can agree with me or you can disagree with me.
So do you think the people, the Egyptian Muslims, the Syrian Muslims, and Christians are two different people?
That's the Egyptian Muslims and what?
So a Syrian Christian and a Syrian Muslim are not the same people. They're not one people,
They share two different ideologies. One ideology seeks to
but
destroy me,
they're
and one
not the same
ideology
culture.
no,
They're not the same.
they could share the same culture. They could still be considered Arab. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the person with the Islamic ideology might seek to destroy me more.
Let me propose this, and you're not gonna like it, and you must stay very calm about this. If we were to look at Islam as purely evil, we would then look at every single product which Islam produced as being purely evil.
No,
We start to look at it.
that's a strawman
Listen,
argument. That's a strawman argument. I'm not gonna accept it. It's not what I said.
no, you said that Islam is evil, right?
I said Islam is an ideology. It's evil. I didn't say Muslims are evil. I said Islam is an ideology.
No,
It's
no,
evil.
no. So, okay, let's walk. Do you think the Quran is evil?
I think there's very evil passages in the Quran.
Do you think the people that read, okay,
See,
this
that's
is
exactly
where,
what you're trying to do. You're trying to make me say that I believe Muslims are evil. I don't believe Muslims are evil, but I believe that
yeah, but
the
you
people
don't
that
need
commit
to do.
I believe that people that commit terror attacks on behalf of Islam are reading the Quran exactly word for word, analyzing it word for word, and they justify these acts because these are the words of Prophet Muhammad and God.
Okay, analyzing it word for word. So cool. You're just you. I'm sorry. Don't skip me. Okay, let me just think for a while, because I think so. You think the people that commit terror attacks?
Are
So you
devoted Muslims. They follow the Quran to the letter.
to the left. Is that the proper way to follow the Quran, in your opinion?
Yes.
Is there no such thing as tafsir? Is there no such thing as scholarship? Is there
If
no such?
if your holy text talks about it, tafsir is just the explanation or analyzation
It's
of that piece
not
of text. Yes,
okay
it is.
because let's for example go to Surah At-Tawbah. All right, to Surah number 9. It is very violent, but you need to. I reading it or listening to it rather would be able to differentiate that yes, this is in the context of the Fath Mecca of when the Prophet entered Mecca.
Wait, let me ask you
I
something. Let me ask you something. Am I a kuffar?
You're from an Islamic perspective or from my perspective?
From an Islamic
You're
perspective.
from Ahl al-Kitab. Ahl al-Kitab were allowed to. No.
Are you sure?
No.
I'm not a kuffar.
هو let me أهل
So, brother, I'm gonna go to the next person. I think you're very nice, and I think your heart is.
no, can I just look at one point? Can I just look at one point?
I want to move to the next
Can
person.
I just No, because you're not allowing me to make my
This
arguments.
conversation is not productive. I'm sorry.
No, because okay, because we're getting sidetracked. I want 2 points. I want to look at the
I
creation
want
of.
1 point. I want just the point of you proving to me that there's a genocide in Gaza. We still haven't proved it.
Okay,
You said you
I
believe
got.
Islam. That
So
doesn't prove anything. That's an ideology.
I think. Can I speak for 3 minutes? For 3 minutes uninterrupted.
I'm gonna put the guidelines right now. I want you to prove to me that there's a genocide in Gaza because you came up with that claim that there's a genocide. Prove to me, because on my side I don't see any intent from the Israeli side to commit a genocide.
Okay, let's not look at intent. Let's
You
look.
have to look at
Okay,
intent.
what
That's
we.
the sole sentence
Okay,
in
let's.
genocide.
Sorry. Let's look at history. What did what? Let's not use. No, no, no. We
I
must
want
look
you.
at
I
history.
just want you to prove it. That's all.
Yeah,
That's all I'm asking.
okay. Because smart people actually have methodologies and know what they're talking about, need to back up their points. So can I just speak?
I
Right?
just want an explanation, please.
Okay. Can I explain? From my perspective, I'm just saying the rhetoric, which you say, because you say there is no Palestinian culture. Palestinians are Arabs. You said that,
It's not me. I'm
right?
not the one saying it. It's your Arab leader saying it.
No, no, no. That's not what I believe. That's
But
not what anyone
it
believes.
doesn't
I
matter what you
think
believe.
Arab culture.
What you believe means nothing.
No, well, I mean, first of all, you're getting sidetracked. That's why I'm not able to. My point is, you do not think Palestinians have a claim to the land. You think their belief system is flawed. You see, not I know your argument that you do not see all Muslims as flawed, but you see Islam as evil and as inherently violent, and thus the people that believe it become inherently violent. This is a characterization of the Ghazni people,
It's not what I
seeing
believe in.
them as completely violent people, right?
The majority of the Muslims are not violent, but the
No, no,
people,
no.
but the
But you're
minority,
gonna justify it by saying, then why are you going into Gaza? Why are you going into Gaza?
because we clearly have at the moment 50 plus hostages dead and alive that Hamas took on
There
October
was
7th, and they're refusing to
So
release them
why are you bombing it,
because we are
flattening it?
we're not
I'm not pro Hamas, by the way.
we're not flattening it though.
I do. You are.
So you want
I'm
to
not pro Hamas.
you want to see
I'm very critical of Hamas. I think Hamas did a big oopsie on October 7th. And I'm in no way supporting Hamas. But I'm just saying that you're not going to say, oh, we're going there for the hostages because you had a deal which hostages were released. Netanyahu, Gaza, and the Israeli government are in a position of power. And thus, if you want to release the hostages, you would get a ceasefire and get the hostages out.
No, that's not
Why
how it
not?
works. Because if you keep Hamas in power, they're gonna come to us every single year and commit October 7th. They don't care about dying.
Okay,
They
and
care
then
about going
why
to
would
Jannah
they
by
have,
committing jihadism. That's why they don't care about
why
this.
would they? Yeah, okay. Can I speak? I know you don't like losing points, but the thing is, painting a population as violent, it's just vile. It's blatant
I'm
dehumanization.
not painting.
I know your
I'm
viewers. I know you're surprised by people actually knowing history, but showing people a population of people saying that if we do not do that, they will come attack us. They come attack you.
Will Palestinians ever recognize Israel as a Jewish state?
Yes,
Are you sure?
Hamas recognize. Yes, Hamas has said it is ready to recognize Israel with the 67 borders and the right to.
Why do they need to go back to the 67 borders if they started committing attacks before the
Because
67 borders? They have nothing to do with the 67 borders. It's a blatant lie. Blatant lie.
well, okay, you're just saying 67 was a pre-Israel launched the war. You're gonna dispute it. I
We
know
did
the
not
fact.
launch the war. We did not
Yes,
launch
you
the war.
did.
No, it was a preemptive strike.
Because it was launched as a preemptive
Because
strike,
Egypt was
right?
on the border of Israel to invade it, same as Jordan, same as Syria. That's a preemptive strike. It's perfectly allowed.
Let's look at the case of Egypt more specifically. Egypt was in a war with Yemen. It was a very weak army, right? Israel, it was a very, very weak army at the time.
Five armies versus one newly established state. That's weak army. It's five armies versus one.
I'm looking at the Egyptian army. The
Okay.
Egyptian army
Do I
was
care that they're
very weak.
why do you think I care that they're weak? The IRGC also appeared to be very weak in the recent war. So what if they're weak? If they show intent to annihilate the Jewish state, which that was their intent all along, Israel is allowed to conduct a retaliatory war.
Okay, but that intent, was it real intent or was it propaganda?
Of course it was real intent. They want to dismantle
Was
Israel.
it
They don't believe in
propaganda?
Israel to be a Jewish state because it was conquered by Muslims
Because
before.
I think I, I
The,
away from
brother,
the claim
brother, I'm gonna say,
Israel's right to exist.
I'm gonna say bye to you. Thank you for the conversation. It's been
No,
it's been a pleasure.
no. I know you're not.
I'm gonna have to say bye.
You're not because I'm smart. You're scared of it.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
know you're smart.
You're smart.
Can
And
I
I'm scared
just
of
say
it.
something about
No.
Israel's right to exist?
That's it. That's it.
You're
brother.
gonna have a really nice clip.
I really
I don't think they have a right to exist.
I don't need a nice clip. I don't need a nice clip. I think I got enough material, but it's not the point. This conversation is not going the direction I want it to go.
What direction do you want it to go to?
I know I'm not losing, and I really don't want to embarrass you. So I'm gonna go.
I'm sorry. Embarrass me.
No,
Embarrass me.
I don't want to. I don't want to.
Okay. Before you
Thank
go,
you for the
can I just
conversation.
say that to
Thank you.
your viewers
Thank
from
you. Yeah, go ahead. Say,
Can I just say something?
please.
Without you and so just to be clear, and I don't know if you're gonna cut this out, you basically said that the Palestinians are Arabs and thus have no claim to the land, even though they lived there. And if we look at a modern state,
So what?
if we look at a modern state, they were working there, they grew crops. You're honestly, you people. Can I talk about the previous guy for a
Bye,
sec?
brother.
Because
Thank you.